one of my, actually that is my mistake because
How was your time with your daughter?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Martin. I'm the Public Works Director for the County of Calaveras. I'd like to welcome you here. Thanks for coming out on this evening to join us for this presentation. I have with us here our consultant team who has been working with us on this effort to put together a lot of the information that's going to be presented here tonight. So they'll be walking through the presentation. And so this will be a live feed with the streaming service that we have. So we want to make sure that we take all questions at the end. So if you have any questions or comments, if you can just hold them to the end so we don't disrupt the feed. And then we're happy to answer any questions or take any comments you have at the end. And then you're more than welcome to walk around and look at the boards even further or ask any additional questions you may have on that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn the time over. I want to recognize Board Supervisor Hubbard here too. I think he's signing in, but Board Supervisor is here. And then I have other members of our county team, Lori and Jen, our project management team here at the county. And then I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves if that's okay, just so everyone knows.
Hi, so I'm Ruthvish Patel, go by Rudy. I'm helping Ruta Jarivala. She's the project manager for us for TJ Camp. I have Melissa with us. She's supporting us for that public outreach, all these lovely boards and everything you see. She helped us with that. And then we also have Sarah from her team. And we also have Nayan, my big boss. You know, ask him the tough questions. No, I'm just kidding. No, you can come to me. So all of us are here to answer questions after we go to the breakout session, and we'll guide you through some of the stuff. I'm hoping this presentation will kind of explain everything to you, or give you a little more clarifications, and then we can have an open discussion. So I'm going to just go into the presentation if that's all right. Right? Cool. So today I'm going to go over what a comprehensive safety action plan is, all the work we've done, what is the CASP process. So you'll see me say CASP a lot. That's short for Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. It's hard to say during a presentation constantly, so keep using CASP. We'll look at what the collision analysis showed, what we looked at, what your high injury network looks like. That's the HIN acronym you'll see there, what your collisions look like, what we heard from the community. We have been to the community virtually reaching out. We had a virtual meeting to get feedback, so we have some preliminary feedback. And then some proposed safety projects. Those are the boards you're seeing behind you, how we came up with those, and what we gathered the data from and why we came to those. And then what's the next steps to get this overall document adopted. So what is a comprehensive safety action plan? Comprehensive safety action plan is to bring all our fatal and severe injury collisions down to zero. It prioritizes your human life quite a bit. It recognizes traffic deaths and severe injuries are preventable. We want to design roadways that account for human error and safer for all modes of travel. We want to promote slower speeds. We want to expand safe transportation options for walking, biking. We have a lot of motorcyclists in this area too we have to be mindful of. Advance roadway safety equability, address collision risks proactively, not reactively. So here you'll see a lot of collisions that have happened and we were trying to address those. But there are other areas where just because the collision data doesn't show it, we don't want to address those also because we want to be proactive so we prevent any future collisions in those areas. And then align our transportation and land use policies supporting what Calaveras County looks like. And then implement proven innovative strategies that have worked for other agencies and has worked throughout California through these safety action plans. So where we are in the process, right? So we've started this back in April 2025. We started with the data collection effort, which we look at last 5 years of data, looking at Switter's and TIM's data. We aggregate all that information to get us results of where your collisions are happening, understand the trends that are happening throughout the county of your collisions, then identify your high risk networks, those are the HINs. Then we went out to the community to get an initial feedback of, hey, this is what your county looks like, here's your collision net data, give us your feedback, what do you think about it, right? From there we started developing safety countermeasures. Then we also presented those informations to the TAC, the stakeholder group. Then we started integrating a plan and developing the safety projects that you're seeing here today, and kind of come up with ideas and solutions of how are we going to address these collisions and how do we make the road safer for all of you. So you see the star here. So we're here today at this public outreach. This is where we want to hear from you. The safety data gives us some valuable insight, but you as the residents, you're really the troops on the ground that see this day to day, understand your roadways day to day, and you know where you have challenges. So we want to hear from you where you think your areas of concerns are. We'll take that, see what the collision data says, and also add it to our potential projects as it lines up. And then from there, we'll develop a draft plan to do a final plan. And then that is very important that this document gets adopted. Once this document is adopted, the county can use it to go after various funding sources to go and implement a lot of the improvements that are identified here. So looking at the collision data, what did we find? We found we have 356 injury collisions happening within the county. The top 3 factors are hitting objects, overturned, and then head-on. Because some of the violation category is the improper turning, the DUIs, and the unsafe speed. So those kind of categories kind of correlate to the type of collisions you're seeing. And then you have 36% that are also happening at nighttime. And then one thing to point out is a lot of your collisions are happening on the roadway segments, not necessarily at your intersection. So we want to be mindful that how do we improve safety on all these windy roads and curvatures throughout the roadway, and how do we make them safer? So once we looked at the overall collision data, we kind of aggregated what are your high injury network corridors. That's the hint number you see. So these are ordered based on how much KSI you have, which stands for killed severe injury collisions. So you can see varying by different roadways how much they have. So you have Little John Road is a concern, Baldwin Street's a concern, Railroad Flats, O'Brien's Ferry Road, Mountain Ranch Road, Southworth Road, Hogan Dam Road, Pool Station Road, Brunson, and Murphy's Grade Road. This is just highlighting to you the top segments on the high injury network. This does not mean we're not including any of the other roadway segments that are within your county. We're looking at all of them, but we just wanted to point out like these are your points of concern. And then again, the collision profiles, as you see over here, are very similar to what I mentioned, the type of collisions that are happening on these corridors. With that, I'll hand it over to Melissa to go over some community feedback we've received.
Awesome, thank you. So we gathered community feedback starting in the summer and terminating in November the 15th, 2025. We received input through a number of different methods. We had an interactive map, which was online. I'll go over that in a little bit. We had a survey, we had a report, a concern tab on the project website as well. And we hosted a series of community meetings that were virtual, one in each of the 5 districts. As noted, the online portals were open for a brief period, closing on November the 15th. I'll go over the community feedback summary, and both the community feedback summary as well as the collision analysis that Rudy just presented were used to identify the appropriate safety countermeasures. So our current step right now is we're hosting our 2nd round of community meetings just to ensure that everything that we've heard has been properly reflected in some of the projects that we've developed. So the interactive map, we received 60 comments from 25 commenters or people. So again, people can submit multiple number of comments if they desired. Here you see an example of the interactive map. It was overlaid on an actual map where you can zoom into your intersection, your roadway of concern. You can drop a marker. You could input text regarding your concern. You could even submit photos. So a lot of commenters did submit photos as well. And you could indicate what your safety concern was, whether it was related to vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, whatever your concern was. Here we see some of the common themes. It included traffic calming and control, pedestrian and bicycle safety, road design and maintenance, school zones, and intersections. We also had a feature where the comments that were inputted on the map, the public can view and upvote or like those comments. So here you see the 3 top or most upvoted comments. It included roads that had steep grading, reckless driving and speeding, as well as narrow roads and speeding. For the survey, we asked a number of different questions to the public. We received 52 comments from 45 commenters. Some of the questions that we asked are highlighted here. The majority of respondents, 38%, lived in Valley Springs and 13% lived in Murphy's. We asked what was your most traveled to community. Again, 31% was to Valley Springs and 23% noted their travel to San Andreas. We tried to distinguish issues for travel to your most traveled community. That's that 3rd bullet. And then the fourth bullet, once you get to your most traveled community, what are some of the issues within that community? So for the third bullet, some of the factors impacting comfort included speeding drivers at 26%, followed by passing at 24%. And then once again you were in your most traveled community, what the factors that influence comfort included speeding at 23% and challenging intersections at 17%. These two tables down below also show what improvements were recommended by commenters. For travel to your most traveled community, people voted that they wanted to see guardrails at, the highest inputted improvement was guardrails at 48%, followed by lighting at 33% and enhanced delineation for horizontal curbs at 33% and advanced warning flashing beacons at 31%. And once we get to the boards, you could see some examples of what those improvements look like as well. And for travel within your most traveled community, the highest rating improvement that was desired was lighting at 47%, followed by high visibility crosswalks at 40% and sidewalks at 42%. This was another method that we received input. On the project website, there was a tab called Report a Concern. We received one comment, and that commenter noted an issue on Highway 4, noting speeds and passing on the shoulder. And as an implementation measure, they recommended installing turn lanes. So one important thing to note, which Rudy didn't go over, is the scope of this plan is the county, right? But we do acknowledge there are some challenges with Caltrans facilities. So a lot of the project improvements that you'll see are on county roads. But one of the great things about the public outreach component is that we can receive comments from you, the community, as to where some of those issues do exist. Should opportunity with Caltrans present itself in the future for collaboration. And our last method of communication was, again, the first round of meetings that I mentioned, virtual meetings where we presented the analysis findings and then again received comment. The themes were pretty consistent. The traffic calming and control, including speed control infrastructure. The infrastructure improvements included widening roads, turnouts, and guardrails, as well as safety and education programs. And overall, the community feedback received at these meetings was that main issues included speeding, DUIs, distracted driving, illegal passing, and poor road improvements. And improvements such as streetlights at intersections were noted to reduce last-minute braking and accidents. And that's it. There you go.
Thank you. All right, now I'm going to quickly walk you guys through the safety projects that we've started with. They're also on the boards you were looking at before we started. So I just want to give you some insight on them so you have some, hopefully I answer some of your preliminary questions and then I'm open to answering more. So one of the first projects we looked at based on what the collision data was showing us is your corridors need safety enhancements. So we're going to look at a corridor safety improvement project. This will vary by different roadway segments throughout the county. And we want to install longitudinal rumble strips. They'll be on the on the shoulder side or center line. This would help with people staying within the travel lane, not drifting as much, enhancing the safety of driving, especially with the nighttime driving or when people are a little fatigued, then driving and dozing off kind of wakes them up too a little bit to enhance safety there. Another proven method is installing better warning signs and chevron signs along your roadways, especially along your curbs. Where you have a lot of curves, you want to ensure you have an advisory sign to let people know how fast they need to be turning, along with those chevron arrow signs. So this will further enhance safety around curvatures throughout your county. And then the last one, install radar speed feedback sign. This is more so targeted towards when you're coming from the speedy county roads into your towns. We want to add those signs when you're getting into towns to let people know, like, hey, you're coming in pretty fast, you're entering a city, you want to slow down, and it flashes a number at you or tells you to slow down. So in hopes to get drivers to pay more attention, like, hey, I need to now adjust my speed, I'm entering a different type of land use. The reason we look at the data, you see we have 214 collisions because of this, 63 were killed or severe injury. So we really want to target this. One of the prominent factors is obviously the improper turning, hit object, and then the DUIs are a concern. So that 30% CRF you see there, what that stands for is a crash reduction factor. So what that means, if we implement these countermeasures, which are identified by the FHWA, you're expected to see about a 30% reduction in your collisions that are happening. So that's why we use these. It's proven methods and ways to improve this. So this is the list we came up with by district, some of the segments that we've identified. And we could talk about this further when we go to the breakout session. By no means this is like a binding final list. This is why we're here. We want to hear from you. Do you like the areas we've identified? Do you have other areas of concern that we may not have, the collision data may not show? That's where we want to hear from you and get better feedback. And then we can look at that data, compare it with the collision analysis, and kind of give you feedback of how we'll may be able to roll that into the overall safety projects. Then the next project was about installing turnouts. This project will install turnouts and also would also have some guardrail improvements as well in it, as that was noted by the public too. Because one of the important things about some of these roadways is having a turnout helps with a lot of the aggressive drivers that might be tailgating folks, getting on people and then passing abruptly on maybe no passing areas and just creating other safety hazards. So turnouts provide a safe way for a passenger to move over, stop, and let the more aggressive drivers go by. It's also beneficial for the fire department, the emergency response time, especially in an event of an emergency. The turnouts help to move cars out of the way or for the emergency folks to use them to get to their destinations. And using these countermeasures, you're going to about see approximately 20% reduction in collisions. Again, this is just a starting point where we looked at, we try to identify the roads that are used for emergency access purposes to further enhance them with more turnouts and some other roadways that may benefit from having them. So again, please give us your feedback on where you would like to see more turnouts or if you want to see guardrails at some of the more narrow turning areas, just so we know better. The next project, Project 3, this is more improvements at your unsignalized intersections. This focuses more on adding better signage and better flashing beacons to improve safety at your intersections. So what this would do is improve the warning signs that you see when you come up to an intersection. In many cases, if you're coming up to a blind intersection, add signs to alert folks you're coming up to a blind intersection. Or if you're coming up on an intersection as a minor street, let people know like, hey, you're stopping, but the cross traffic doesn't stop, so look out for cars before you turn out. So it helps both sides of the roadway to get improved safety. We'll also look at installing flashing beacons at some of the stop control or some of the other more remote areas where we would think it benefits from the implementation of flashing beacons, because that will further enhance your signs and make them more visible so drivers pay more attention to them. And then we would also add those flashing beacons in advance if needed. We also want to be careful with some of these improvements. We just don't want to put flashing beacons everywhere, because then they just become a passive thing and most folks get used to just seeing flashing beacons, right? So we want to be selective about where we place them and how we use them. And this also gives you about a 20% reduction in your crashes if we implement these countermeasures. Again, this map shows you where we're thinking of some locations. Again, please tell us more locations that you think would benefit from these treatments. And then kind of tying into Project 3, Project 4 is about the pavement on the ground, right? Because not only with the signs, we want to ensure your pavement, your signage, your striping, your markings, they're all very legible and clear. So as you're approaching into a town or approaching an intersection, you know if you have to stop, you have to yield, or you have the right of way. So adding striping on a roadway is important. We want to ensure that we have maybe look at some enhancements with crosswalks, some ped warning improvements and striping improvements. So they kind of help and go hand in hand with your collisions that you're seeing at your unsignalized intersection. So it's like a comprehensive effort, not only to improve your signs, but also the pavement on the ground. So everything is much better and more noticeable. And this will also help you get about a 25% reduction in your collisions. So this is a map again, kind of showing those locations. Since it's a district map, it kind of shows more than only this District 3. And then the last two projects, Project 5 is a street lighting project. So we did notice about like 36% of your collisions are happening at nighttime, and we want to be mindful of enhancing safety at nighttime too. But we have to be careful with the street lighting element because we want to ensure the street lights are placed in an area you have a power source. We're not going to be putting street lights in the middle of the county roads where there's no power source. It'll be very costly and not practical. So we would focus the areas to near towns where you have the infrastructure and potential to add street lights to enhance those intersections, because those are the ones people are more actively using, and you want to improve the safety there. So using this countermeasure, you get about 40% reduction in your collisions. And then, this is again a map kind of showing the area where we think street lighting would benefit, especially because the collisions are happening over there at nighttime. And then the last one is alcohol awareness program. This is an important one throughout the county. As you saw earlier, we have a lot of collisions that are related to DUIs. You have 84, 31 are KSI, and 51 are happening at nighttime. So we want to make sure within each of the districts we focus on some alcohol awareness programs as such. I know the Calaveras County Health Group is already working on an alcohol awareness program, so we would just supplement their work and kind of enhance it to help it better. And they're also doing a great job as is. So this would just further enhance that, because you can never have enough awareness about DUI and just improving safety for everyone else around the county. And then one thing I wanted to point out is this health department also has received an Office of Transportation Safety grant recently. They got $143,000. They'll be working on improving roadways for vulnerable users, including children, pedestrian, bicyclists, teens. And the program activities are kind of listed in the bullets here. They vary from traffic safety education, car seat education, bicycle and helmet distribution, community bike rodeos, teen safety, car seat safety, partnership with local enforcement to support traffic safety, and also surveys and local studies to guide future traffic strategies. So the county is already making steps and working on improving safety for all of you folks. And this project and this plan will just further build upon that. And then what is our next steps after this community outreach, right? So we're at the community outreach. We want to gather as much information as we can from you. We'll be also doing some more site visits to kind of understand the locality better, get a grasp for some of these roadways. You can only see so much looking at Google Maps. So, I enjoy driving around, looking at things myself. So I definitely would love to do that. And then after that, we're going to go and prioritize prioritize and develop our safety projects. So we'll take the feedback you gave us, improve the locations we've identified, add some more into it, revisit the data, add all the history in there, and then we'll develop a draft safety action plan. The draft action plan will be presented to the council for adoption, and once they approve it and bless it, it will be adopted as a final document. And it's important this document gets adopted because then it will lead to next steps of getting funding. The county can go after grants for safety enhancements and start implementing a lot of these projects. And this is one of those key documents for like the SS4A Straight Streets for All grants that are coming up. And this document is one of the key documents you need to apply for that grant fund. And there's a lot of money there that the county would be able to then use to implement a lot of the information I talked about right now. And then with that, thank you for listening to me. Hopefully I didn't put you all to sleep yet. And then now we can have a little bit of discussion, but we want to kind of walk around the boards with y'all, listen to your questions, and kind of answer them as we go. All right, should I just call
Instead
them?
of asking just general questions right
Yes,
now?
very general.
You can ask general. You want to take general
Your
questions?
data collection, what was the time period of your data collection?
It-
I think
Yeah, so the data, okay, the data collection was the last 5 years.
It was the last 5 years.
Correct. That's how we typically always do these comprehensive safety action plans. It's always the last 5 years. We look at the SWITR's and TIM's database, and we collect the data from there.
How much is District 10's budget based on what you spent the prior year?
That is, what was the question?
District
How
10
much-
is Caltrans.
Yeah, Caltrans. Are you only county?
Yeah, so one thing I do want to elaborate right now is this comprehensive safety action plan is a county project. We're looking at county roadways and improving safety in county roadways. If it's a Caltrans facility or improvements on Caltrans, that's under Caltrans purview, and they work on it separately. If we notice areas near county roads that are near Caltrans, we can pass on some information to them. But this is, focus here is mainly for your county roadways, not Caltrans roadways.
When you say give objects, is that, how much of that is animals? Wildlife, we have a lot of county roads that are impacted by wildlife. Are those objects, is there any differentiation in that number?
Typically, the hit objects are the fixed objects within the roadway itself. So it could be a signpost, or it could be like a tree sometimes.
Okay.
And the data that we received from, various sources like TIMS and SWITR's, they did not have specific attributes that would say animals or anything like that. So at this point, the hit object is actual objects that are out there.
science barriers.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And, sorry, just 1 second, just going back to your previous question on how much money does District 10 have. Right now, this is just a planning document. We do not have any funds to implement any of this. But doing this plan is important because this plan is a prerequisite to even go after any funding source. So if we do not have this plan approved, I cannot, or sorry, county, generally I take it personally, but the county cannot go after any of the grant funding opportunities that are out there. So we have to get this plan approved and blessed. Sorry, yes.
I didn't see it mentioned, how much did you reach out specifically to the schools in the school district? And what feedback, what connection did you get from the schools in particular and the parents at those schools who do drop off and pick up and whatnot?
So
Because I
we
didn't see a lot on that in your deck.
Right. So we did include a stakeholder list, and that stakeholder list had various different groups from the county itself. Maybe you can talk more to
Yeah, so
that.
we had TAC meetings as well, and that stands for Transportation Advisory Committee.
Technical advisory
Technical.
committee. Yeah.
And included representatives from schools,
public works, planning,
safety officials,
emergencies,
yeah.
yes.
So we really relied upon those agencies to get the word out to their constituents, but we did receive input from those agencies as well. And then in terms of school input, I believe we have a representative from the county here that could probably speak to some of the activities that they're doing right now for the Safe Routes to School.
Yeah, here in Murphy's, we have a Safe Routes to School project that's coming up. We have actually 2 projects coming up this year, right here at Michelson Elementary. We're working with the school hand in hand and outreach on that as well.
So that's aside from this project.
Right, those are already live projects with funding sources. They've been designed, they've been approved by the Board of Supervisors, and we're getting ready to go out for solicitation for construction. They're improving the sidewalks at Michelson on Penn Gulch. They're improving both crosswalks on Penn Gulch as well as at the highway, at State Route 4. That's Caltrans doing that before we come in, hopefully when school gets out, right, Josh? So we're thinking like as soon as school gets out, we're gonna hit it hard this summer.
No, I'll just
But, yeah.
state what the white elephant is, right? That we're a county that's interconnected by highway, that's Caltrans, and to not have them in the room for these kinds of planning things seems like a big disconnect, right? Like that's.
So I can also speak to that. I do know that they are coming and doing an outreach. I invited them to this, told them we're doing our outreach. Once again, these are county roads, county projects, but you're right, we have highways everywhere. So we do try to communicate with them. They weren't able to attend tonight, but they do have another outreach February 11th. And I believe that's at Michelson Elementary. And you're supposed to be getting something in the mail this week. These residents are getting an invite to educate you on the State Route 4 intersection here at Penn Gulch.
And just to add to that, the technical advisory committee that was being referenced earlier, there's a member of Caltrans on that committee.
Exactly.
1 second, Judy had a question.
Yeah, as a retired teacher, I am concerned about the outreach to the schools, not just in Murphy's, but an overall picture of the county. How important that is in coordination, not only with teachers, but PTA and whatever. There's so much power in the safety of that. So I just, I'm just suggesting that as much as what you're doing, but to also see as a continuation, because it is so important, and I laud you for it.
Thank you. I guess I'll start with that one.
This
Sorry.
kind of speaks to what you were just saying and also what you were saying about flashing lights. I live off of Penn Gulch, and I don't think that school zone light is ever turned off. It's on 24/7, and I can tell you that nobody slows down there, and I think it's because the light is on. When I try to get out onto Highway 4, it's a nightmare. There's cars going by there at 45 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're talking on the highway, right?
On the highway, yeah. Yeah, so it might be a good thing to turn it off at night and then turn it on when there are kids there. Maybe it would have a bigger impact.
We could definitely look into that. If you could please put posted there. We could see what can be modified to the existing light to detect maybe cars or pedestrians and then turn on. So you can, it's a great concern
The
that
new
you have.
crosswalks are going to be the ones that are push button activated, so when there's a student wanting to cross the road, it'll do the beacon. That's gonna be a huge improvement. And then there's other improvements to the turn lane there at the intersection that are gonna be improved. It's gonna be a much safer intersection, but Penn Gulch itself, it's all in the works.
We'll start with the front row and work our way back, sorry.
Where are you getting your accident data? CHP, the sheriff, or a combination of the two?
Combination of everything. So we have taken the data from TIMS as well as Switter's. The reason we did that because we did not want to miss any collision points. We combined that data, we cleaned it up. We also did not want to double count the data because we don't want to re-emphasize on any of the location that really doesn't need it. So we have taken both. Just a short answer to your question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You'd read from
Sorry, you stopped my bad.
I live a mile out on Penn Gulch. I've lived there 50 years. Recently, the county posted a sign 25 miles an hour in front of my house. A friend with a radar gun has clocked them going 65 miles an hour. What can be done? Also, on the Murphy's Grade Road, which I drive a lot, they always pass on the double yellow line on the curb. And a friend checked to see how fast someone was going. She checked and they were going 70 miles an hour. Okay, so you've already got the sign. Downtown Murphy, you got a stop sign at Big Trees Road and Main Street. 5 cars go through without stopping. So you've got the signs, you've got everything, but without any education.
Yeah, education outreach, yeah.
It doesn't do any good.
Yeah, we'll write those locations down, because you threw a lot of locations at me right now. And I want to look at it more closely too. And we'll think of engineering solutions that we can try along with like education and enforcement, because it's like 3-step approach. So
And just to add to that, like it was touched on in the presentation, we're trying to partner with those other groups, like the highway patrol, like behavioral health, all those other departments that could kind of duplicate our efforts with outreach and education. The Public Works Department, along with these consultants, are focused on projects, but there's an outreach and education, there's an enforcement options, all those other options, and we need the other departments to, assist us with that. As Public Works, we can't enforce anything. We could build stuff, we could put in signs if they're recommended, we could widen the road, we could do all that stuff, but when it comes to enforcement or changing people's driving behavior, that's where we pull in these other departments as part of our technical advisory committee to advise on how to best educate folks or increase enforcement.
Are speed bumps considered dangerous?
They're more useful on the type of roadway. We want to stick to like residential. Because we want to put them on more like residential roadways or more low volume roadways. We don't want to just go put speed bumps on all your county roads. So we want to be selective of where we put them. And kind of focus the attention where maybe it's a safe route to school picture to it. If it's near a school area, those roadways would benefit from it. Maybe a street that's used for cut through, which is meant only for residential traffic, but has become a cut through, maybe those roadways would benefit from speed bumps.
Most of the roadways in our district though have snowplows, which won't allow.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's another thing. So we have to be careful with that. We can't, so. And then that lady's been patient, so I'll go to her.
Hi, my name is Jessica, and I actually sit on the local school board, and I'm Vallecito here. I actually want to say thank you for your works. You've come out and presented at our meetings to talk about the intersection at Highway 4 and Penn Gulch, and that proposal with the flashing lights is really going to help a lot of our students. I just want to give credit where credit is due and say thank you. That project came out of a Safe Routes to School study that was done in 2018, I want to say. And there are many projects within that study that I think are worthwhile, and I would love to see that included in, it's already been designed and done, so I would love to see some of those designs come into this. And I say that because I think the last item on your high collision list was Murphy's Grade Main Street to State Route 4. And that affects this district where we all live here. And so I know many of the proposals that were, are like guardrails or, high stakes intersection, but that's a pretty pedestrian related street. And a lot of our kids live down, back in that community, and then they walk or they bike. And so to the extent, I'm kind of curious as we present here, if there's a little bit of focus just in this community, and I know you're probably going to different ones, but we'd like to hear kind of what proposals are coming within this district here.
Gentleman right behind you.
So Jessica, sort of stole my thunder there about the complete streets, but did you guys look at the complete streets plan as a part of the analysis of things? Because while it was Caltrans focused, it also looked at local streets, that fed into the state highway. And so that's something that should have been looked at early on. That was the plan that was adopted in 2019, actually.
I'll speak to that. So this current data analysis is of existing facilities as they stand today, right? So it doesn't include any future projects. Once this data is compiled and with recommendations in it, Public Works Department will cross-reference that with any other projects that have already been identified or designed, and either incorporate those or make sure they're not contradictory or whatever else. But the information from this will help better fortify or bolster things that have been identified in other safety projects that may already be in place, or in the works, I should say, in the design phase. So this data will help feed that information. But the data that's being collected right now is on the existing facilities as they stand today, not accounting for future improvements.
So Micah, could I also just verify, I believe that study was done in 2018 and the final report came out in 2019.
Right.
So a lot of that information also will be going on 7 years old.
Right. Yeah, so as we, the Murphy's Complete Streets Plan is a conceptual plan. It's not an actual design plan. So once we get to a point where we prioritize that project, receive funding for it, and go into the design phase, it's very likely that that plan will be updated in that effort, and there may be different recommendations or different improvements recommended as opposed to what was needed in 2018, right? Some things have changed since then. I won't talk about what, but some things have changed since then. So that obviously has an impact on what that project could look like. So it's likely that the design may end up being different than what is in the current complete streets plan.
Yeah, Micah, could I just ask, sorry, I didn't mean to overstep you there, but is it possible that we could put that plan online somehow before the February 11th meeting so that people can look at it before we go into the Caltrans meeting?
It's on the CSAP.
Yes.
Of course it's on CCOG, of course. So if we
We
could,
can directly get from our site.
could you send me that link and then I'll put it out as well? Thank you.
Thank you.
It seems like there's another layer of project review that needs to be incorporated in your long-term plan, and that has to do with evacuations during fires. So, for example, last Labor Day, on Monday, the exit day, Highway 4 was slow and go to stop and go from Murphy's up past Forest Meadows. That's over 4 miles up the road.
Past Avery.
Yeah, I don't know how far the backup went. It was significant, and if you have a fire evacuations trying to evacuate that same corridor, you could say, well, you wouldn't have the holiday traffic. Well, no, you'd have all the residents from all of Highway 4 hoping to get down to the valley. So in your long-term planning, do you have, for example, a project to address other county roads that could become additional alternate evacuation routes?
Yeah, so we actually have what's called evacuation needs assessment. That's our plan that was just completed this last year. And so that's giving us information similar to this on where our vulnerable areas are when it comes to evacuation. So we've identified some areas that are high need for improvements.
Is Sheep Ranch Road on that list?
I can't recall off the top of my head.
That would give you an alternate from Avery and Murphy's over to the
So
middle
we've
to get
been
down
working
to
with
the
Eric
valley.
Holt, and Eric's no longer with the OES department, but he was working on a method of getting Sheep Ranch Road as an evacuation route because it's imperative that we have it as such.
Right.
Is someone else continuing that work?
Yes, I mean, it will do. We're not letting it go, but it was through the Office of Emergency Services because that's where the funding theoretically would be to make that an emergency evacuation.
And as a Public Works Department, we'll be making reference to that document as we identify and program projects into our 5-year capital improvement program.
When might I see, if I went on the county website, some information about planning toward improving that? How long do you think it'll be before that comes together?
Well, the evacuation needs assessment's already been done. That's available now. And then as we start identifying program projects in our capital improvement program, once that goes to the board and gets approved for the 5-year plan, that'll be available on our website.
When is that going to be done?
Meeting. I'm sorry?
When will that 5-year plan be approved by the board?
We'll probably be taking it to the board at the end of March for first draft review, and then receive input from the board and get direction as to which projects we want to
Where is
prioritize.
it published?
I'm sorry?
You said it would be posted or published or whatever?
Yeah, once the board adopts the plan, then we publish it on our website and it'll be available for public to review.
What's your website?
The Public Works page of the county website.
But it would be part of the agenda packet as well, so if you look at the meetings, it would be in the agenda packet.
That item gets brought before the board in a public meeting. The first draft and the final draft review, so there'll be a couple of different times where the public will have opportunities to come in and comment on either the projects or ask questions about them. And
Is that plan intersecting with what OES is doing?
It would do, but we were speaking to OES independently trying to get Sheep Ranch to see if we can find funding for that.
Yeah. We'll pick up where it does come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I saw on one of your slides, you talked about educating teenagers, and I'm seeing a new problem up here, and it's out there, is youngsters are getting electric bikes, and they are on the roadways with these electric bikes, and I've seen them running around Murphy's down Main Street. I would like to see something addressed in the educational part of parents being educated about these electric bikes that are little motorcycles.
Yeah, no, that's a challenge that all agencies are facing, especially now with the invention of all these new ways. You see it all around California now. Every city is facing this challenge, so we're aware of it. We're trying to categorize them as also with like bicyclists, motorcyclists. Where do they weave into that? And education is a big piece of it because when I was that age, I'd be doing the same thing kind of thing. Right? So, how do I educate my younger self is the piece we try to get at. Okay, awesome. And then, I think we got more questions.
Just to piggyback on what he said, the estimates of people that are up here full-time on the highway for corridor going up into Ebbets Pass is about 7,500. On the holidays over the summer, we can get up to 20,000, 30,000 people up here at a time. And I don't even know if that's been communicated to you to understand that that's the volume that would need to get off this hill one way or another. And so that's our concern. Because if county's roads aren't accessible exterior to Highway 4, and really you go up or you come down, and coming down, we will gridlock very easily and very quickly as we've seen in previous fires. So that's all of our concerns up here.
Yeah, I believe that should have been looked at to evacuation route, feasibility studies. It's not the focus of this study, right? So this is out of the scope of what we're looking at. We're looking at how do we enhance the safety collision data we're seeing and improving the roads that way. So there's multiple plans in the works by the county, right? This is just one piece of it, and we want to ensure engineering solutions and come up with safer roads for all of you folks. And then the evacuation plan kind of augments that and kind of improves those facilities that way. One more question and then we'll go to breakout session. I'll take her. And then we'll answer more questions when we go to the board. So I'm available. So.
To piggyback on the previous comment, have you looked at the town of Paradise or Santa Rosa or the other locations that had large wildfires with issues with evacuation? We're talking about safety here, and you can't ignore the evacuation in your study and push it off onto this other study. This is about safety. So are you able to interpolate? Are you able to bring anything to bear based on that other data, which is so valuable to help keep us safe? That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, great point that you made here. We'll go back, we'll reevaluate with the company staff and get back to you on that, but we'll definitely consider looking at the evacuation plan and see how we can integrate that.
Thank you.
And to Mary's point, there's simple things like we have an area called Blue Lake Springs up the hill. If you're not from Blue Lake Springs and you don't know to follow that double yellow line, you could drive around for hours trying to figure out how to get out. It's simple things like that that could be a part of this plan too, that actually address safety without.
Must address it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that is the main reason why we are having this meeting, right? If we have missed something, we want you guys to let us know so that we can integrate it. So, point well taken. We'll definitely go back and look into it, and we'll see what we can do to integrate those two plans together and what we can bring to the table.
One last question.
I just want to say.
You're special, so that yours is the last question. No, I'm just kidding.
It's kindergarten teacher. No, the point is on the outreach, because you have such good ideas and you've made such good points. And I'm seeing that, like you had mentioned, everything's there that should be safe, and yet they're not following the safety. And I just think that it's getting to this point universally that education part is so important, and making, like at the fair, and I'm asking, I shouldn't go on like this, but I'm asking, is there money or is there a possibility of extending what our concerns are with the education?
So there is.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, in one of the presentation slides, it was identified that one of our county departments just received this grant. They just got it, like a few weeks ago, so it's brand new. But this grant is focused on those exact things. And so this department in the county, County Public Health, is gonna really work on maximizing that grant funding to start doing those efforts and reaching out to the school districts, reaching out to folks on outreach and education. So that's their specialty, and that's what that funding's for.
Who would be doing that?
I'm sorry?
Who would be participating in that specifically?
So they'll be reaching out just like we have with public meetings, outreach and education stuff to get feedback and input from the community. I would imagine, it's not my department, but I would expect that they would do something similar to this.
It's Colleen Rodriguez, and she runs public health, and she's very good about putting out updates and what have you that will be circulated online.
Yeah, and she's been involved in our TAC group meetings, so she always keeps us aware of what they're doing. So that's why we wanted to bring this to your attention. The county is already working on these things for you from different departments,
And this kind of opportunity comes every year. So there is one out again. So it just takes time to trickle it down to the, So we have a number of opportunities to go after similar kind of grants and get more funding. Because now we know what the issues are. Now we have to solve them.
And I know the Highway Patrol just received a grant as well for a similar type of outreach and education, and that could potentially be used for enforcement options too. So we're pulling all resources that we could get our hands on in this effort.
So we will break down to, there are votes for every project. If you have more questions, again, they don't have to be related to these projects. If there are any other questions, you want us to include some other projects, just like you guys mentioned, please come and talk to us. We want to really jot them down and go back to our offices and, take a look at them again. So please don't leave without giving us comments. We really want to listen to what your concerns are and what your ideas are, so that we can incorporate it in our plan and give you more robust plan.
So we can take a quick look at these boards. They kind of look the same, but they're not. They are different.
They're all the different projects that I've gone through.
They focus on different categories, different areas, so.